Hi, I'm Eric Sierfoss Miller. Welcome to another Deck Tech. I've got Jacob Corwin back again to show us another spicy pile of Magic cards. Griselbrand.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Deck's a trip.
So before we get into this pile I'm looking at, why play Griselbrand over other choices in Modern?
So a lot of people play Modern and they think that it's just the most degenerate format that there is right now, because as opposed to like Standard, where you have a lot of more fair Magic, and Legacy, where there's the potential for more degenerate things, people don't tend to play those kind of decks. Mm-hmm. While Modern is more about the format for just racing and just trying to dead your opponent as fast as possible. And there's
Gotta go fast, right?
No deck goes fast in this deck's best draws.
Okay, so we go real fast. So what would you say this deck is strong against?
Well, this deck is strong against other Magic decks and is very bad against itself.
Okay.
Best way to put it.
You know what? Let's just look at this pile of Magic cards because I'm already excited about this.
Right.
So we have right here the namesake of the deck, Griselbrand. Not Grisel. I almost called it Griselbrand, but that's not what its actual name is.
Right.
Griselbrand, big 8 mana, 7/7 flying lifelink, pay 7 life, draw 7 cards. That does all sorts of work for you, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, I've never seen that card used in a fair way.
And then next to it you got Borg Gigamos Enraged, comma, the one in your deck.
Absolutely.
And I love this card too because again, it's never played in a fair manner.
Oh, absolutely.
We'll get into how this. You know what? We've got all these cards right here. Tell me how this engine works.
All right, so the game plan is to get Griselbrand out as fast as possible. So your main ways of doing that are cards like Goryo's Vengeance and Through the Breach, because let's face it, casting a Griselbrand isn't the way you wanted to be doing things.
Right.
Goryo's Vengeance needs a little bit of help to get the Griselbrand into play because it needs to be in your graveyard first.
Okay.
While Through the Breach, while being a little bit slower, just lets you put it from directly in hand into play.
Okay.
And both of them grant it haste.
Oh, really? I did not know this gains haste. Oh my god.
Yes.
I didn't know Goryo's Vengeance did that. Every time I read Goryo's Vengeance, I feel like more text appears.
Yeah.
Just magically. So that's fine. And then Through the Breach just plays it from your hand. This plays it from the graveyard. You have plenty of ways of putting things into your graveyard.
Oh, yeah.
In a disgusting manner. This is new. In a disgusting manner. We'll get to that in a hot second. Actually, let's get to it right now. What is this card doing for you?
So previous iterations of the deck had to play cards like Night's Whisper, which let you look at 2 cards and draw them for 2 life. Well, that made you a lot worse against aggro decks as far as just like killing them on turn 3 and 4, because that's when they're trying to drop your life total to 0. Discovery allows you to look at the top 2 cards of your deck, and if they're cards that you're not looking for, you put them in your graveyard and draw a card. And sometimes the card that you're looking for is one that you want in your graveyard anyway. So sometimes it just helps you out and just gets you that extra card.
That's some pretty spicy technology right there.
Oh yeah. Dispersal, on the other hand, usually doesn't come up, but it's very good at bouncing stuff like Leyline of the Void.
Okay. That's pretty cool. So we've got our putting things into the graveyard and drawing spells package. We have the things we're trying to put onto the field, ways to put them onto the field.
Yep.
Let's get to the shoal part of Griselbrand. Talk about World Spineworm and Nourishing Shoal.
So World Spineworm is the second highest CMC green creature there is in the game of Magic that is modern legal.
What's the biggest one?
The biggest one is the new edition called Ghalta.
Oh, Ghalta. Oh, that makes sense because it's only 11.
Yep. So Ghalta's 12 mana where World Spineworm is 11, but Ghalta's much worse to breach in as a backup plan than World Spineworm is.
Because of its effect.
Right. So Through the Breach sacrifices the creature, and when World Spineworm dies, not only does it shuffle itself back into your library, but you get 3 5/5s with trample.
That is pretty good. So also, I'm sorry. So also, I'm noticing it goes from the graveyard from anywhere.
Yes.
So that incidentally helps you against like weird milling strategies as well, doesn't it?
Yep.
Can it backfire?
Usually not really. There's really no instance where it's getting shuffled in that I'm not okay with or not in control of.
Okay. And then what does Nourishing Shoal do?
So Nourishing Shoal costs green, and X, and you gain X life. Now it has an alternate cost of removing a green card from your hand and then gaining life equal to its CMC. So you remove the World Spineworm to gain 11 life, which, depending on what your life total situation is at the moment, either lets you activate Griselbrand once or twice.
That's pretty cool. I like that. Okay.
Another thing about Nourishing Shoal is it's an arcane spell, and if there's one thing this deck does really weird, it's make mana. So, Through the Breach only costs 4 mana if you splice it onto arcane.
Okay.
So, if you only have access to 4 mana, so you've used a Simian Spirit Guide or one of your Desperate Rituals earlier in the game to try and Lightning Axe or Brutality on an early turn, you can actually just Nourishing Shoal, pitching any green spell, and then if you have 4 mana, just splice into Arcane the Through the Breach onto the Nourishing Shoal.
That's pretty interesting. Now, this is... God, yeah, everything here is arcane.
Yep.
Even the rituals.
Yes, very important.
Wow. So you could really power these out very early.
Absolutely.
Have you ever spliced a breach onto Agorias? Is that
No.
is that like the dream?
Gosh. So the thing is, that's really cool and all, but that would almost never come up because there's really no instance where you need that much mana if you're already going off.
I guess it's fair.
It's one of those situations that, yes, it'd be a really cool story to tell, but there's no practical reason to do it.
Okay. I'm just looking at this pile of legendary creatures and obnoxiously large green dudes, and I'm like, all right, yeah, okay.
I mean, that's what we're doing here.
Well, let's talk about the mana. Speaking of which, we've got Temples, Blackleaf Cliffs, some Bloodstained Mires, one Blood Crypt. What's this Steam Vents for?
Steam Vents is simply just for casting the Dispersal.
Oh, that makes sense.
It almost never comes up, but it's almost free to play the one of.
Okay. And then, otherwise, this would just be another Blood Crypt?
Otherwise, it would be another basic mountain.
Oh, okay. And then you just have, 7 basics down
7
there?
basics, 5 swamp, 2 mountain.
4 Spirit Guides. How many lands is this total?
Should be 19.
Okay, and then 19 plus the 4 guides, plus the 2 rituals and the Manamorphose.
Yep.
That's a pretty solid main board. Let's move over to the sideboard. 4 Leyline of Sanctity.
Yep. So when you sideboard with this deck, you're not trying to sideboard against what your opponent is, like, what their deck style is. You're just trying to prevent certain cards from happening. So against, like, Jund, Abzan, Green Black Rock, Mardu Pyromancer, the discard spell-based decks, the Thoughtseize decks, you bring in 4 Leyline of Sanctity to stop them from doing that, from disrupting your combo.
Okay. And then Pact of Negation is also a concession to things like that.
Pact of Negation is a card for the blue decks.
Okay.
So against, like, Blue-White or Jeskai or Esper or whatever flavor of Snapcaster Mage Cryptic Command deck you feel like running to Epic Loot today, you want to have your Pact of Negations ready for the turn that you do try to go off. And I've been teching the Boseiju, who shelters all, as of recent.
Okay.
Just flat out tells them that this is happening.
I like that. 2 Angers, I assume, for like creature-based aggro decks.
Yeah, with Dredge picking up the meta, I had to unfortunately undiversify my sweepers a little bit because Anger is just so much better against the Dredge deck.
Bantu's Last Reckoning.
Yep.
That's pretty spicy. Now that destroys all creatures, but your lands do not untap next turn. How big of a drawback has that been?
Hasn't really been a drawback to the best of my ability. So usually you're casting it, you're getting rid of like 3 or 4 creatures. Your opponent has to have like more stuff in their hand to redeploy, and most of that stuff doesn't have haste. So you're not getting hit on that next turn anyway.
Yeah.
And you're just kind of using that, like you can draw your card for turn, maybe play a Scry land, maybe have an untapped land and a Faithful Saluting. You might have like Simian Spirit Guide Lightning Axe afterward to follow it up to just make sure that their board's clear while your lands aren't untapping.
Yep. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Then you have a Braid, just decent removal spell.
Yep.
Second copy of Brutality.
Yep.
Push, another decent removal. Single copy of Engineered Explosives.
Yep.
I assume tokens.
Rest in peace.
Ah, that makes a lot of sense. And then you already talked about your Boseiju.
Yep.
Is there any other kind of tech that I kind of skipped over or anything right there?
Not really.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. Do you have any kind of closing remarks on the deck?
So a lot of modern decks right now, you have your deck that's trying to beat things. This deck's not trying to beat things. This deck asks the question, do you have it? And they go no.
Yeah.
Game's over.
Well, all right.
They go yeah. game's still over.
I mean, it makes for quick matches of Magic, at least.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
All right, well, thank you very much for coming on the show again. Again, I'm Eric Searfoss Miller.
I'm Jacob Corwin.
And we will see you next time. Goodbye, everyone.